Summon your mother from the farm. Have her come from the village and take up my position as housekeeper, Anya's mother-in-law said, her eyes welling up. Very well, she responded with measured composure. I shall make the call. A collective gasp filled the room when the countrywoman eventually made her appearance. Before we proceed further, please tell us which nation you are viewing this from. Enjoy the narrative. Anya smoothed the delicate lace at the neck of her simple frock, a flutter of anticipation in her chest. Today marked a dinner engagement with his mother, Margarita Viktorovna. Each such occasion felt like an ordeal for Anya. Margarita Viktorovna, a woman of considerable influence and accustomed to opulence, had harbored a disdain for Anya from the outset. She deemed a young woman from a rural background entirely unsuitable for her son, a promising legal professional. Igor, sensing Anya's unease, gently clasped her hand. Do not fret. All will unfold smoothly, he murmured, his voice tinged with a hint of uncertainty. Anya knew Igor held genuine affection for her, yet he seemed hesitant and yielding when his mother was involved. They entered Margarita Viktorovna's expansive residence, a testament to affluence. The furnishings, the art in ornate gilded frames, the dazzling crystal chandeliers, everything proclaimed the hostess's considerable wealth and elevated social standing. Yet Anya felt utterly out of place amidst such grandeur, a stark contrast to the humble simplicity of her own village home. Margarita Viktorovna emerged in the drawing room to greet them, her gaze sweeping over Anya with palpable disdain. And so you have arrived, she declared, her tone devoid of any warmth or welcome. Igor, have you taken the pains to instruct your wife on proper table etiquette? Igor glanced at Anya, a flicker of guilt in his eyes. Mother, must we begin this again? He inquired softly. I simply desire a measure of decorum, Margarita Viktorovna interjected. Last time she managed to spill a sauce all over the tablecloth. Furthermore, Anechka, it is imperative that you cultivate better manners. Anya's cheeks flushed crimson. She attempted to disregard her mother-in-law's pointed barbs, but each encounter proved increasingly challenging. She cherished Igor and wished for harmony, but Margarita Viktorovna seemed determined to obstruct it. They proceeded to the dining room, where a lavish table had been prepared. Gleaming silverware, delicate porcelain, and meticulously arranged culinary delights all indicated a household that valued both refined taste and outward splendor. Anya took her designated seat, striving to maintain an upright posture and avoid drawing undue attention. At a certain juncture, Margarita Viktorovna turned with a forced smile. Well, Anechka, how fares your village? Do you still tend to your livestock? Igor's brow furrowed. Mother, what is the purpose of these questions? He asked, his voice low. What is amiss? I am merely curious, Margarita Viktorovna replied with feigned innocence. I have always wondered about the pursuits of those dwelling in such remote areas. It must be dreadfully dull and uneventful, lacking in culture, devoid of amusement. Anya's hands clenched beneath the table. She felt an urge to retort, to share with her mother-in-law the inherent beauty of her homeland, the diligent and honorable individuals who resided there, but she managed to restrain herself. Desiring to avert a full-blown confrontation, she softly replied, It is a pleasant place with fresh air and good-hearted people. Kind individuals are, indeed, a blessing. Margarita Viktorovna offered a smile, though it held no warmth. Alas, kindness alone is insufficient. It is intellect, education, and a certain social standing that truly matter. Suddenly, as if preparing to deliver a decisive blow, Margarita Viktorovna declared, You know, Anechka, my cleaning woman is indisposed, and you, being from a working family, are accustomed to physical labor. Perhaps you should contact your mother from the collective farm. Let her assume the duties of housekeeper. A heavy silence descended upon the dining room. Igor stood with his mouth agape, utterly incredulity. He was aware of his mother's capacity for harshness, but not to this extent. Tears welled in Anya's eyes. This was an unbearable transgression. Margarita Viktorovna had crossed every conceivable boundary. She wiped her tears, met Margarita Viktorovna's gaze directly, and offered a reserved smile. Very well, I shall make the call, she stated calmly. He had not anticipated such a response from her. He had expected an outburst of tears and a hasty departure, but instead, she met the insult with dignity and serenity. Margarita Viktorovna, too, was taken aback. She had anticipated an emotional scene, hysteria, and weeping. The remainder of the dinner was excruciatingly quiet. Anya struggled to gather her thoughts, to comprehend the events that had transpired, and to chart a course for the future. Igor and Anya drove home in complete silence. He was consumed by guilt and a sense of powerlessness. He recognized that his mother had overstepped, but he found himself incapable of rectifying the situation. Upon their arrival home, Anya sat on the edge of the bed, feeling utterly deflated. Her mother-in-law's words echoed relentlessly in her mind. "Summon your mother from the collective farm. Let her become my housekeeper." Igor paced the room silently, burdened by remorse and helplessness. He approached Anya, knelt beside her, and took her hand. "Forgive me, Anya. Forgive her actions. You know her disposition." His voice resonated with deep regret. Anya averted her gaze, unable to meet his eyes. How exceedingly arrogant and cruel she had been. She harbored such prejudices, and yet, he was her beloved. Igor seemed unwilling or unable to stand against her. For the first time in their shared history, a seed of doubt began to sprout within Anya. Should she truly continue a relationship with such a family? Would she perpetually feel like an outsider, demeaned, and inadequate? She brushed away her tears and looked at Igor. "I am uncertain, Igor. I truly do not know what path to take. I am weary of this, weary of her incessant contempt." Igor embraced her, drawing her close. "I love you, Anya. I will endeavor to ensure this does not recur. I will speak with her." Anya harbored no illusions. These were empty assurances. Igor had always offered similar pronouncements, yet nothing ever changed. Margarita Viktorovna remained an immutable force. Anya gazed out at the nocturnal cityscape, its myriad lights twinkling below like distant stars. She felt a profound sense of isolation, as remote and solitary as those celestial bodies. She recalled her mother's words during a recent telephone conversation. "Never allow anyone to demean you, my daughter. You are deserving of respect." Anya picked up her mobile device and dialed her mother's number. "Mother, it is I." "Hello, my darling daughter." Anya's voice trembled as she began to cry again. "Mother, she has done it again." Nina Petrovna listened with unwavering patience as Anya recounted the disastrous dinner. She offered no interruption, no advice, simply absorbed her daughter's pain, allowing her to release the pent-up emotions. When Anya finally concluded her account, a silence fell. "Daughter, do not distress yourself," Nina Petrovna finally said. "I will come." Anya's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "You will come? Where? Why? To Margarita Viktorovna's?" Anya's words faltered. The image of her unassuming, hard-working mother, arriving at her mother-in-law's opulent abode, struck her as both deeply humiliating and utterly absurd. "Mother, there is no need. I do not wish for you to endure this." "My child, do not worry. I understand the implications of my decision. Simply place your trust in me." Nina Petrovna's voice exuded an unshakable confidence, a strength that compelled Anya to fall silent. "But mother, I do not grasp the rationale behind this." "You will understand. Daughter, simply trust me. I shall arrive tomorrow." "Very well, mother," Anya responded softly, a flicker of reassurance mingling with her profound bewilderment. She ended the call and returned to the bedroom. Igor remained seated on the bed, his head bowed. "What did she say?" he inquired. "She said she will come," Anya replied. "To see your mother?" Igor lifted his head, his expression a mixture of confusion. "She did not specify where," Anya shrugged. "She simply asked me to have faith in her." Igor's brow furrowed. He found himself perplexed by the turn of events. He knew Anya as a quiet, unassuming woman who typically avoided involvement in others' affairs. What could have prompted her to confront his mother, especially after such a demeaning proposition? "I believe we should try to dissuade her," Igor suggested. It could prove rather awkward. Anya met his gaze with a defiant glint. Are you apprehensive? Are you concerned that your mother might be displeased? Igor flushed. Do not speak such nonsense. I believe this is the most prudent course of action. In fact, I consider it the sole viable solution, Anya declared. I am weary of remaining silent, weary of enduring her provocations. Let my mother handle this matter herself. The following morning, a palpable tension permeated Margarita Viktorovna's apartment, a lingering residue from the previous evening's encounter. The atmosphere felt thick with unspoken anticipation. She was utterly convinced that Anya's mother, a humble village woman, would soon arrive, prepared to undertake any task solely for a meager wage. This mental image brought Margarita Viktorovna a surge of malevolent satisfaction. It felt as though she had achieved a decisive victory, putting Anya firmly in her place and asserting her undeniable superiority. Time crawled at an agonizing pace. Margarita Viktorovna repeatedly cast pointed glances at her watch, a subtle indication that the housekeeper was tardy. Igor attempted to alleviate the strained atmosphere by offering his mother another cup of coffee, but she merely waved him away dismissively. Abruptly, the doorbell chimed. Margarita Viktorovna's lips curled into a smug smile, and she moved to open the door before Igor could react. She fully expected to be met by a pathetic figure clad in worn garments, her head covered by a scarf. However, upon opening the door, she was confronted by an elegantly attired woman in a chic pantsuit, her face obscured by sunglasses. Her hair was impeccably styled, and her hands bore the mark of an expensive manicure. She radiated an aura of self-assurance and quiet dignity. Margarita Viktorovna stood frozen in sheer astonishment, momentarily unable to comprehend the identity of the woman before her. Greetings, Nina Petrovna said calmly, removing her sunglasses. I am Nina Petrovna, Anya's mother, Margarita Viktorovna. She visibly paled, having anticipated encountering anyone but this self-assured businesswoman. You are the housekeeper? She blurted out, feeling the ground beneath her feet give way. Nina Petrovna raised an eyebrow slightly, a subtle indication of her surprise at the question. A housekeeper I am not. Allow me to introduce myself. I am the proprietor of a farm, Native Expanses. At that precise moment, Anya and Igor appeared at the doorway. Anya struggled to suppress a smile, observing the bewildered expression on her mother-in-law's face. Igor, on the other hand, was as astonished as his mother. He had always understood Anya's family resided in a village far removed from modern amenities, but he had never conceived that they owned a substantial enterprise. Mother, Anya murmured softly, attempting to maintain a low profile. Greetings, my daughter, Nina Petrovna replied, her face breaking into a warm smile as she looked at Anya. I trust I have not disrupted your morning tea. Margarita Viktorovna rallied herself, striving to project an air of composure. Please do come in, she managed, her voice attempting an even tone. I had not realized that you and I possessed differing perceptions of a village woman. Nina Petrovna completed her sentence, a subtle note of irony lacing her words. Appearances can often be deceptive, preventing us from discerning the true essence of matters. Nina Petrovna stepped into the drawing room, her gaze briefly assessing the luxurious decor. You have a most beautiful apartment, she remarked, devoid of any overt admiration. However, I must confess, my preference lies with living amidst nature. The air is cleaner there, and the people are kinder. Margarita Viktorovna found herself at a loss for a suitable reply. Her arrogance and disdain for the seemingly unsophisticated Anya and her family had recoiled upon her. Please, be seated, Nina Petrovna, Igor suggested, attempting to mitigate the awkwardness. Perhaps you would care for a cup of coffee. Thank you, Igor, Nina Petrovna replied, settling into a chair. However, I find myself preferring herbal tea. I happen to have a selection of medicinal herbs, cultivated on my farm, with me. She produced a small pouch from her handbag. If you would be so kind as to prepare it, my daughter, it is exceptionally potent. Anya gratefully accepted the pouch and proceeded to the kitchen. A profound sense of confidence washed over her, knowing her wise and formidable mother was by her side. Margarita Viktorovna observed them, her world seemingly imploding. She realized with a sickening certainty that she had made a monumental error in judgment. They were not Anya and her kin, but something far more formidable. Her ingrained prejudices and haughtiness had led her to a ludicrous and mortifying predicament. A heavy silence settled over the drawing room. Igor shifted uncomfortably, unsure of how to break the ice. Margarita Viktorovna regarded Nina Petrovna with a steely glare, attempting to decipher her intentions. Finally, Nina Petrovna broke the quiet. Turning to her daughter's mother-in-law, she stated, "Margarita Viktorovna, I have not come here to instigate a quarrel or to assert my own superiority. My sole purpose is to safeguard my daughter. I will not permit anyone to demean her, particularly within her own household." Margarita Viktorovna's face flushed. "I did not intend—" She began to offer excuses, but Nina Petrovna cut her off. "I am aware." "What is your opinion of my daughter?" Nina Petrovna continued. "You perceive her as a simple village girl, unworthy of your son. However, allow me to inform you that Anya possesses the greatest kindness, integrity, and work ethic of anyone I know. She cherishes your son and strives to bring him happiness, and if you are unable to recognize this, it speaks volumes about your own limitations." Margarita Viktorovna remained silent, her head bowed in shame. The weight of her words and actions pressed down upon her. She recognized the validity of Nina Petrovna's assessment. Her own behavior had been exceedingly arrogant. "I trust you understand that your pronouncements have caused hurt not only to Anya, but to me as well," Nina Petrovna added. "My husband and I invested considerable effort and affection in raising our daughter, and it pains us deeply to witness her being subjected to such humiliation and insult." At that moment, Anya returned with the tea. She placed the cups on the table and sat beside her mother. Nina Petrovna took Anya's hand and gently stroked it. "Daughter, you must always remember that you are a woman of inherent worth and beauty. Never permit anyone to instill in you a sense of inadequacy." Anya nodded, tears threatening to fall. She was profoundly grateful for her mother's unwavering support and love. Margarita Viktorovna began to murmur incoherently, attempting to justify her recent remarks, but in Nina Petrovna's eyes, there was no trace of triumph or resentment, only a profound and unshakable calm. "I am not averse to performing household tasks, Margarita Viktorovna," Nina Petrovna stated, her voice even and firm. "However, before I commence, let us establish the terms of compensation, for all labor, regardless of its nature, deserves to be remunerated commensurate with its value." Margarita Viktorovna was momentarily speechless, unsure of how to respond. Accustomed to dictating terms, she now found herself entirely stripped of control. Shame gnawed at her for her words and her ingrained prejudices, yet pride prevented her from admitting her error. She felt trapped. "Mother," Igor interjected softly, attempting to capture his mother's attention. "Perhaps this is not necessary." Margarita Viktorovna shot him a withering glance. She had no need for his counsel. She would manage this situation herself, maintaining the facade of dignity. "I believe there has been a slight miscommunication. My intention was not to offend. My words were unfortunate," she said, her voice wavering. Nina Petrovna raised an eyebrow slightly, a subtle signal of her skepticism regarding the sincerity of these pronouncements. "You attempted a clumsy maneuver. It seemed to me that you articulated your opinion of my daughter quite clearly. The lady's opulent world appeared to be crumbling around her. I merely wished to convey that Anya requires more time devoted to domestic duties. She truly possesses no aptitude for cooking or housekeeping whatsoever." Anya could not help but let out a quiet chuckle. "Margarita Viktorovna," she began, her voice steady and assured, "I do not subscribe to the notion that a woman's purpose in life is to be a servant. I engage in work, pursue my studies, and strive to be a devoted wife. If my management of the household does not meet your approval, you are always at liberty to employ a professional assistant with your considerable wealth." Margarita Viktorovna pursed her lips. She detested any reminder of her financial standing. It was her weapon, her primary means of exerting influence over others. But now this weapon seemed to have turned against her. Igor, sensing his mother's grip on the situation slipping, decided to intervene. "Mother, please," he implored, "let us not descend into an argument. Anya is my wife and I love her. I implore you to treat her with the respect she deserves." For the first time in a considerable period, Igor displayed an uncharacteristic firmness. He was weary of his mother's relentless criticism and her incessant attempts to dictate the course of his life. He understood that he must now protect his wife, even if it meant defying his mother's wishes. She had always perceived him as compliant and lacking in resolve, but she now detected a new determination and strength in his eyes. She realized she was losing not only control of the immediate situation, but also, alarmingly, of her son. "Very well, Igor," she conceded, her voice tinged with weariness and a newfound submissiveness. "I shall endeavor to do so. However, you must understand that my sole desire is for your well-being." A smile graced Anya's lips as she observed the shifting dynamics within the family. She knew that Margarita Viktorovna's transformation would not be instantaneous, but she held on to the hope that this experience would prove instructive. "Margarita Viktorovna," Anya said, addressing her mother-in-law, "I am pleased that we have had this opportunity to converse. I hope you recognize that judging individuals based on their origins or social standing carries significant implications." Margarita Viktorovna nodded, her gaze evading Nina Petrovna's direct look. She understood that her arrogance and entrenched prejudices had culminated in a deeply humiliating predicament. She felt a profound sense of shame for her words and actions. Anya approached her mother and embraced her. She was filled with gratitude for her unwavering support and for the blessing of a loving and resilient family. "Thank you, Mother," she whispered. "I love you." "And I love you, my dear daughter," Nina Petrovna replied, gently stroking her head. "Everything will be all right." With a final nod to Margarita Viktorovna, who remained in a state of bewildered confusion, Nina Petrovna bid farewell to Anya and Igor. Her gaze, brimming with maternal affection and evident pride in her daughter, conveyed a powerful, unspoken message. "I shall call," she said briefly to Anya before entering a luxurious vehicle that seemed to absorb the last vestiges of arrogance from Margarita Viktorovna's opulent apartment. Following her departure, a profound silence settled over the residence. Margarita Viktorovna remained seated as if petrified, her gaze fixed on an unseen point. Igor seemed to witness his mother in such a state for the very first time. Anya, conversely, felt a complex mixture of confusion and a quiet sense of triumph. It was not a feeling of gloating or schadenfreude, but rather a profound sense of justice and restored honor. Igor soon reappeared, his demeanor somber and tinged with guilt. "Anya, I am so terribly sorry," he began haltingly. "I should have stood up for you much sooner. I simply did not know what to say to Mother." Anya moved closer to him and gently took his hand. "Igor, it is all right. The most important thing is that you understand now. Simply remain by my side. That is all I require." Igor clasped her hand tightly. "I will. I promise. I will never allow her to speak to you in such a manner again." Anya offered a soft smile, confident in the sincerity of Igor's words. This evening had served as a pivotal lesson for him, one she fervently hoped he would carry with him throughout his life. Some days later, within the quiet sanctuary of their apartment, Anya and Igor reveled in newfound peace. Igor had become noticeably more attentive and solicitous towards Anya. He frequently inquired about her well-being and actively sought her opinions on various matters. It was as if he was endeavoring to atone for his past passivity. One evening, as they were sharing a meal, the telephone rang. It was Margarita Viktorovna, her voice hesitant and subdued. "I wish to offer my sincerest apologies for everything I said and did. I was profoundly mistaken, deeply wrong." Anya remained silent, awaiting her mother-in-law's further words. "I understand that you may not be inclined to forgive me, but I felt compelled to express this. I am exceedingly ashamed." Margarita Viktorovna continued, her voice strained. Anya sighed. Margarita Viktorovna, I appreciate your apology, but I require time to process all that has transpired. I cannot simply dismiss everything that has occurred. I understand completely. I do not expect immediate forgiveness. Please know that my remorse is genuine. Margarita Viktorovna responded. The conversation concluded. Anya gently placed the receiver down and looked at Igor. He sat with bated breath, anticipating her reaction. What did she say? He asked. She apologized and expressed her shame, Anya replied. Igor exhaled a breath of relief. I am glad. I'm wishing this marks the turning point, the winding down of this long-standing quarrel. Not long after this hopeful turn, Anya and Nina Petrovna found themselves gathered in the heart of their ancestral country dwelling, sharing a warm pot of tea and engaging in conversation. Nina Petrovna initiated the discussion, inquiring, So, my dear, tell me, how are things progressing with your mother-in-law and Petrov? Are they attempting to mend fences? Anya responded positively, Yes, that is excellent news. The most crucial aspect is that she grasps the fundamental truth. Respect is not a commodity that can be purchased. It must be cultivated and truly deserved. Anya gave a thoughtful nod in agreement. You are absolutely right, Mother, she affirmed, and I believe she has come to that realization.